All right, in Luke chapter 9, starting in verse 1. Then he called his 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all devils and to cure diseases. And he sent them to preach the kingdom of Yahweh and to heal the sick. He said unto them, Take nothing for your journey, neither staves, nor scrip, neither bread, neither money, neither have 2 coats apiece. Whatsoever house you enter into, there abide, and thence depart. Whosoever will not receive you when you go out of that city, shake off the very dust from your feet for a testimony against them. And they departed and went through the towns preaching the gospel and healing everywhere. Now Herod the Tetrarch heard of all that was done by him, and he was perplexed, because that it was said of some that John was risen from the dead, and of some that Elias had appeared, and of others that one of the old prophets was risen again. And Herod said, John have I beheaded, but who is this of whom I hear such things? And his desire to see him. And the apostles, when they were returned, told him of all that they had done. And he took them and went aside privately into a deserted place, belonging to the city called Bethsaida. And the people, when they knew it, followed him. And he received them, and spoke unto them of the kingdom of Yahweh, and healed them that had need of healing. And when the day began to wear away, then came the 12 and said to him, Send the multitude away, that they may go into the towns and country round about, and lodge and get victuals, for we are here in a desert place. But he said unto them, Give you them to eat. They said, We have no more but 5 loaves and 2 fishes, except we should go and buy meat for all this people. And they were about 5,000 men. And he said to his disciples, Make them sit down by 50s in a company. And they did so, and made them all sit down. Then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed them, and broke, and gave to the disciples to set before the multitude. And they did eat, and were all filled. And there was taken up of fragments that remained to them 12 baskets. And it came to pass, as he was alone praying, his disciples were with him. And he asked them, saying, Whom say the people that I am? And they answered and said, John the Baptist, and some say Elias, and others say that one of the old prophets has risen again. He said unto them, But whom say you that I am? And Peter answered and said, The Messiah of Yahweh. And he straitly charged them, and commanded them to tell no man that thing, saying, The Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected of the elders, and chief priests, and scribes, and be slain, and be raised the 3rd day. And he said to them all, If any man comes after me, let him deny himself, and take up his stake daily, and follow me. For whoso will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. For what is a man advantage if he gains the whole world and loses himself, or be cast away? For whosoever shall be ashamed of me and of my words, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he shall come in his own glory, and in his Father's glory, and of the holy angels. But I tell you the truth, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of Yahweh. And it came to pass, about 8 days after these things, he took Peter and John and James, and went up into the mountain to pray. And as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistening. And behold, there talked with him two men, which were Moses and Elias, who appeared in glory and spoke of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem. But Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were awake, they saw his glory, and the two men that stood with him. And it came to pass, as they departed from him, Peter said unto Yahshua, Master, it is good for us to be here. And let us make 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias. Not knowing what he said. While he thus spoke, there came a cloud and overshadowed them. And they feared as they entered into the cloud. There came a voice out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. And when the voice was past, Yahshua was found alone. And they kept it close, and told no man in those days any of those things which they had seen. And it came to pass that on the next day, when they were come down from the hill, much people met him. And behold, a man of the company cried out, saying, Master, I beseech thee, look upon my son, for he is my only child. And lo, a spirit takes him, and he suddenly cries out, and it tears him, and he foameth again, and bruised him, hardly departed from him. And I besought thy disciples to cast him out, and they could not. And Yahshua answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you, and suffer you? Bring thy son here. And as he was yet coming, the devil threw him down and tare him. And Yahshua rebuked the unclean spirit, and healed the child, and delivered him again to his father. And they were all amazed at the mighty power of Yahweh. But while they wondered every one at all these things which Yahshua did, he said unto his disciples, Let these sayings sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of men. But they understood not this saying, and it was hid from them. And they perceived it not, and they feared to ask him of that saying. Then there arose a reasoning among them, which of them should be greatest. And Yahshua perceived the thoughts of their hearts, and took a child, and set him by him, and said unto them, Whosoever shall receive this child in my name receives me. And whosoever shall receive me receives him that sent me. For he that is least among you all, the same shall be great. And John answered and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in your name, and we forbade him, because he follows not with us. And Yahshua said unto him, Forbid him not, for he that is not against us is for us. And it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face. And they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. And they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. And when the disciples James and John saw this, they said, Master, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias did? But he turned and rebuked them, and said, You know not what manner of spirit you are of. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy his men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. It came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Master, I will follow thee wheresoever thou goest. And Yahshua said to him, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has not where to lay his head. And he said unto another, Follow me. But he said, Master, suffer me first to go and bury my father. Yahshua said unto him, Let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of Yahweh. And another also said, Master, I'll follow you, but let me first go bid them farewell, which are at home at my house. And Yahshua said unto him, No man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of Yahweh. So what does the call to follow Yahshua mean to you? Is it something you heard a long time ago and that's now faded away as the years have gone by? Or is it something that you hear afresh every day? So today we're going to look at this passage from Luke's Gospel, where the call to follow Yahshua rings out loud and clear. And we will see a number of different responses to that call. In Luke chapter 9, and look at verse 51, and it came to pass, when the time was come, that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. Yahshua had a clear sense of his purpose on earth. He knew that his time was short, that it wouldn't be long before his work was complete. He also knew that work would come to its fulfillment in Jerusalem. So we're told he set his face to go to Jerusalem. There's an intentionality. There's that expressed quite strongly. He's going to Jerusalem to fulfill Yahweh's plan for him and for all humanity. And as he starts off, he approaches a Samaritan village. And so he sends messengers to go ahead to prepare a way for him. No doubt they tell the people that Yahshua is planning to stay there on his way to Jerusalem. Now, if you know anything about the relationship between the Jews and the Samaritans, at this point in history, you'll realize that this was a very gracious thing for Yahshua to do. You see, what he was doing was including the Samaritans in his mission. He might as well have bypassed them, but no, he sets out to stay with them, to include them in the fulfillment of Yahweh's plan of salvation. But what's their response? They reject him. They don't want to be part of anyone who sets their face to go to Jerusalem. So here we see the first type of response to Yahshua's call is to follow him, to join him on the way of the stake. One response of people to the call of Yahshua is rejection. But not only do we see that, but we also see the danger of rejection. The danger of rejection isn't that James and John, the sons of thunder, had in mind. It isn't that Yahweh will strike us down on the spot. It's more subtle than that. But nevertheless, it's just as daunting. And the danger of rejection is that Yahshua will let us have our way. He never forces us to accept him. He just goes on to another village. In other words, if you choose to ignore the call of Yahshua, he'll let you. That's a bit scary, isn't it? It's a bit like the child who throws a tantrum. Some parents have learned that the best way to deal with a tantrum is to walk out of the room. Because when the child realizes that their bluff had been called, they stop screaming. The aim of the tantrum is to get the parents to try harder to please the child. But if the child is left to scream without an audience, they soon give up. Well, it's a bit more serious when it comes to Yahshua's call. Those who reject Yahshua find themselves, like that child, left alone. But what a terrible thing it must be to find yourself ignored by the living Elohim, left to your own devices, without Yahweh to call on when you find yourself in trouble. That's what happens here. We're told that they went to another village. So Yahshua moves on, and as he's walking down the road, someone comes up to him and says, "I'll follow you wherever you go." Here's someone who recognizes Yahshua as a great leader and who wants to follow him. But the only trouble is he hasn't really thought about what following Yahshua entails. His is almost flippant comment, superficial desire to be on the excitement of Yeshua's mission, without first considering the cost of commitment. Yeshua doesn't want superficial commitment. He wants deep commitment, based on a clear understanding what following him entails. He says foxes have holes and birds in the air have their nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Elsewhere, he tells his followers that follow him entails taking up their stake. That is, being ready to die for Yeshua. The call to follow Yeshua isn't an easy thing. It involves being at odds with the world, possibly at the cost of your lives. But just because Yeshua rebukes this man doesn't mean he doesn't want people to follow him, because he then turns to another man and says to him, "Follow me." This man understands what Yeshua is asking, but asks that he first be allowed to go and bury his father. That is, he's asking if he can leave the decision to later, when his father is dead and he no longer has any family responsibility. But Yeshua says no. This is a call that takes first priority. The priority of commitment to Yeshua overrides even the priority of caring for your father. How many people are there who use their responsibility to their family as an excuse not serving Yahweh with all their heart and soul and strength? How many people are there who family responsibility as an excuse for not worshiping regularly with Yahweh's people, as an excuse for remaining fringe members of a congregation rather than active core members? But Yeshua says, "Let the dead bury their own dead. But as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of Yahweh." The priority of commitment to Yeshua comes about not just because Yeshua is master of all, though that's a good start. It also comes about because people are dying. When he talks of the dead burying the dead, he says those who haven't heard the gospel are as good as dead. They need the gospel to bring them back to life. What's the point of caring for your father if in the end he suffers eternal death? A much better way to care for him is to proclaim the kingdom of Yahweh to him, to tell him of Yeshua's offer of forgiveness and new life. The same applies to our next door neighbors, our brothers and sisters, our cousins and nephews and nieces. Telling them the good news of Yeshua is by far the best way to care for them. And finally, another person comes to Yeshua and says, "I'll follow you, Master, but let me first say farewell to those at my home." Sounds like a reasonable request, doesn't it? I'm ready to sign up, but first let me say my farewells. To this person, Yeshua gives what seems to be the harshest response yet. He says, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of Yahweh." He seems to be saying, this call is so urgent that you don't even have time to explain to your nearest and dearest where you're going. But it's even more serious than that. I think what he's saying is that this call is a call to lifelong commitment. It's a call that can't be put off, and it's a call that once taken must not be put down. It's no use deciding to follow Yeshua and then reverting every now and then to your old lifestyle. It's no use committing your life to Yeshua and a few years later deciding you've done enough and someone else can take over now. You see, as I look around the church today, a lot of us are retired. Retired from paid employment, that is. But you haven't retired from life. In fact, most people I know who are retired are busier now than they were when they were working. But the question is, are you busy doing Yahweh's work? Are you still committed to following Yahshua along the way at the stake? As far as I can see, there is no biblical precedent for retiring from the ministry. We can all continue to minister for Yahshua until our dying breath. Yahshua's call to go and proclaim the kingdom of Yahweh continues to apply to us throughout our life. And the imperative just gets greater the older you get. Because let's face it, the time left to you is getting shorter. It's said that the older people are it's harder for them to become believers. Yet they need to find Messiah just as much as those young. And who are these people that are most likely to hear about Yahshua from? It's those in their own age group with whom they mix. So the imperative to proclaim the kingdom of Yahweh never stops being relevant. The call to be single-minded as a servant of Yahweh never ceases. Yeshua's words maintain their relevance throughout our lives. No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of Yahweh. So how are you responding to Yeshua's call at this point in your life? You might be the one who is rejecting his call to commitment, one who is just going through the motions of church membership. If that's the case, then heed the warning of this passage. If you reject Yahshua, he might just let you have your way. Are you one who hasn't really thought through the cost of commitment? If you are, then be aware that commitment to Yahshua entails committing all you are and all you have to his service. Have you taken on board the priority of Yeshua's call over all other calls in your life for your time and energy? Have you made Yeshua's call the first priority? And finally, have you committed yourself to Yeshua's for life? Are you prepared to continue as his servant until your dying breath? The rewards for service to Yeshua are great, but the demands of that service are equally stringent. So be one who is totally and permanently committed to serving Yeshua and proclaiming the kingdom of Yahweh to those around you. Yahweh bless.